Children, today let us learn about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Let us try to remember what we have learned in last Wednesday's class about de Broglie's concept of dual behavior of matter. What was that? What was the concept? All matter in motion possess wave-like and particle-like properties. Okay, de Broglie gave us an equation where he associated the wavelength of a particle with its mass and velocity. What is the equation? Lambda equal to h by mv. Since the product of mass and velocity is equal to momentum of a particle, de Broglie's equation can also be written as lambda equal to h by p. Now, what did de Broglie tell us about the wave-like property exhibited by ordinary objects with large masses and subatomic particles with lighter masses? What did he say? The wave-like properties of ordinary objects which are in motion are not visible. This is because they have large values of masses. Okay, so the product of their mass and velocity in the denominator will bear a large value. Okay, if you look at the numerator, it is Planck's constant. The value of Planck's constant is so small, that is in the range of 10 raised to minus 34. Okay, so when you have a large value in the denominator and a small value in the numerator, okay, the value of lambda which we get by solving h by mv will be so small, extremely small, that it is not possible to detect the wave-like properties of objects with heavier mass like you and me. Okay, now if you consider the mass of lighter particles like subatomic particles. Okay, let's take the example of electrons. You know the mass of an electron is 9.1 into 10 raised to minus 31 kilograms. Okay, although they may be moving with larger velocities, the product of the mass of the electron and its velocity will be a small value again. Okay, now if you solve h by mv for an electron, the value of lambda will be considerably large. So it becomes possible to detect the wave-like property of objects with very lighter masses. Okay, like electron, which is a subatomic particle. Werner Heisenberg, a German physicist, in 1927 stated the uncertainty principle, which is a consequence of the dual behavior of matter and radiation. According to Bohr's model, electrons revolve around the nucleus in definite circular and fixed paths called orbits. Now Heisenberg wanted to check whether the path followed by electrons, okay, what are they otherwise called? Orbits, okay, as proposed by Bohr, really existed or not. For this, Heisenberg wanted to locate the exact position and determine the exact momentum or velocity of an electron at a particular instant in order to know its trajectory around the nucleus. Okay, trajectory is otherwise called path. Okay, so Werner Heisenberg took forward the concept of dual behavior of matter and radiation to give a principle about the uncertainties in simultaneous measurements of position and momentum of small particles like electrons. Imagine that you are taking a ball of known mass and you are throwing it in air. If you know the momentum of the ball, okay, or simply its velocity, and the forces that are acting on it like gravity at various instants, it would be possible for you to determine the path of the ball which is thrown in the air. Okay, so if you know the position and velocity of any object, Okay, at various instants it would be possible for you to determine the path of that object. Okay, so Heisenberg wanted to check the path followed by an electron around the nucleus of an atom. Okay, so if you want to find out the path followed by an electron, what should you be knowing? You should be knowing of two things in order to find out the path followed by an electron around the nucleus of an atom. They are position of the electron and the momentum or velocity of the electron at any particular instant. Now look at this slide. You can see the picture of a meter scale and that of an inch scale. You can see a line of particular length which is drawn in between these two scales. Now, if you are asked to calculate the length of this line in centimeters using an inch scale, would it be possible? No, because you would be getting the answer in inches, right? So, instead of using an inch scale, you would now be opting a meter scale, isn't it? So, in order to measure the length of the line drawn in centimeters, we use a meter scale because it is calibrated in a unit which is smaller than the unit which you are asked to measure, isn't it? You are asked to calculate the length of the line in centimeters, but the meter scale has a unit which is smaller than centimeter. What is that? Millimeter. Okay, so in order to make accurate measurements, the scale which you use should always have a unit smaller than the one that is to be measured. Okay, so in a similar way, in order to measure the position of an electron, we must use a meter scale. Okay, we must use a meter scale which is calibrated in units smaller than the size or dimensions of the electron. Okay, can you find a meter scale like that in reality? You also know an electron is considered as a point charge. So, will it have dimensions? No, it is dimensionless. So, measuring the position of an electron, okay, using a meter scale which is calibrated in units smaller than the size of the electron is not possible. Now, how will you locate the position of an electron? You can employ light or electromagnetic radiation for this purpose. And the light which you are using should have a wavelength smaller than the size of the electron. Okay, so in order to determine the position of an electron, it can be illuminated with light or electromagnetic radiation such that the light used should have a wavelength smaller than the size of the electron. Only then it would be possible for us to locate it. Okay. Now, hope you would be remembering, according to de Broglie's equation, lambda is equal to h by p. Okay, what is lambda? It is wavelength. And p is the momentum of the photons present in that radiation. Now, from the equation, it is clear to us that wavelength and momentum are inversely proportional. Okay, so if the wavelength is very, very short, then the momentum of the photons that are present in the radiation would be very high. As you know, photons have a particular mass, okay, and they would be traveling with a velocity v. And momentum is the combined effect of mass and velocity of photons present in the radiation. So, when the wavelength of the radiation used is very, very small, then the momentum of the radiation would be, momentum of the photons present in the radiation would be very, very high. Okay, now look at the animation. You can see that wavelength and frequency are inversely proportional. Hope you remember this formula. Nu is equal to C by lambda. Here nu is frequency, C is velocity and lambda is wavelength. Okay, nu is equal to C by lambda. Here nu and wavelength lambda are inversely proportional. So when you have a radiation of smaller wavelength, then its frequency would be high. Okay, so this means the radiation of smaller wavelength which we are using to illuminate the electron is of very high frequency. Okay, now look at this equation. E is equal to h nu. Okay, E is energy of the photons present in the radiation. Nu is the frequency of the radiation. When you have a high value for frequency, then the energy also would be having high value. Okay, so therefore, when the frequency of the radiation used is very short, then the momentum of the photons present in that radiation would be very high. Okay, now this means that the frequency of the radiation is very high. Now from the equation E is equal to h nu, it would be evident to you that since the frequency of the radiation is very high, the energy of the photons present in the radiation is very high. Either way it is correct. Okay, so when such a radiation, okay, what are the characteristics of this radiation? Okay, it has very small wavelength, which means it has very high frequency, which means it has the photons present in the radiation has very high energy, and also it means that the momentum of the photons present in the radiation is also very high. So when such a radiation hits an electron, the very high energy of the photons present in the radiation which hit the electrons is transferred to the electron, and the electron is moved away from its orbit. The position of the electron could thus be found out or calculated through this process. So, it is possible to find the position of an electron the moment it is hit by light consisting of photons of very high momentum. But it is impossible to find out the value of momentum or velocity of the electron at the same time. It is impossible to detect the exact velocity of the illuminated electron simultaneously. That is, at the same instant as you located the exact position of the electron. This is because the radiation used to illuminate it consists of photons of very high momentum, or in other words, the energy of the photons in the radiation is very high. When such a radiation hits the electron, the very high energy of the incident photons is transferred to the electron. As a result, the energy of the electron increases further and it is moved away from its path. Okay, so it is not possible for us to detect the exact velocity and the exact position of an electron at the same instant. Now, on the other hand, if the velocity of the electron is exactly known, it would be impossible to locate the exact position of the electron. Now, just refer the animated picture provided. This is intended for visualization purpose. Okay, this is just to make you visualize whatever you have learned till now. Just try to locate the exact position of an electron for which you know the exact value of velocity. It is not possible. Okay, it is not possible to determine at the same time the exact position and the exact velocity of an electron in motion. So, if the position of the electron is exactly or certainly known, the velocity of the same would be uncertain. And if the velocity of the electron is exactly or certainly known, the position of the electron would be uncertain. This led Heisenberg to put forward his uncertainty principle. It states that it is impossible to determine simultaneously the exact position and exact momentum or velocity of an electron. Mathematically, it can be expressed as delta x into delta px is greater than or equal to h by 4 pi, where delta x denotes the uncertainty in position of the particle, which means the error possible while locating the position of a particle. Delta px denotes the uncertainty in calculating the momentum of the particle, which means it is the error which may arise while calculating the momentum of that particle. Okay, so when you multiply the uncertainty in calculating the position and uncertainty in calculating the momentum of a particle, the result on the right hand side will always bear an error which will be greater than or equal to h by 4 pi. If you solve this, you get a number on the right hand side. H is Planck's constant, pi is 3.14. Okay. This equation can also be expressed in terms of mass and velocity of the particle. As you know, momentum P is nothing but the product of mass and velocity. So, we can substitute mass m and velocity v in the place of P, momentum. Okay, so the equation becomes delta x into delta mvx greater than or equal to h by 4 pi. Mass of a particular particle is a constant. So, we take mass outside the bracket and we put delta near Vx. So, the equation becomes delta x into m delta Vx greater than or equal to h by 4 pi. Okay, now we can bring down mass to the denominator on the right hand side. So the equation becomes delta x into delta Vx greater than or equal to h by 4 pi m. Now note that the uncertainty in the position and velocity of a particle are inversely proportional to the mass of the particle. Uncertainty in the position and velocity of the particle decreases as the mass of the particle increases. Similarly, uncertainty in the position and velocity of that particle increases as the mass of the particle decreases. Okay. Now, note that the uncertainties in the position and velocity Vx are inversely proportional to each other. Delta Vx is greater than or equal to h by 4 pi m into delta x. So as you can see, the uncertainty in the velocity delta Vx is inversely proportional to the uncertainty in position delta x. Okay. If the position of the electron is accurately or certainly known, then the velocity of the electron will be uncertain. Or in other words, if the value of delta x is small, the value of delta Vx will be large. And if the velocity of the electron is accurately or certainly known, then the position of the electron will be uncertain. That is, if the value of delta Vx is small, then the value of delta x will be large. Let us look at the significance of uncertainty principle. First of all, it rules out the existence of definite paths or orbits or trajectories of electrons and other similar particles as proposed by Bohr. Why? The path of an object is determined by its location and velocity at various moments. Remember, previously I was talking about an example in which I told you how to determine the path of a ball that is thrown in air. Subatomic particles like electrons are considered to move with a speed of 1% less than the speed of light. So just imagine how terribly fast these tiny subatomic particles might be moving. Hence, For subatomic particles like electrons, it is not possible to determine simultaneously, which means at the same time, the exact position and exact velocity at any given instant. Remember, when we were discussing about de Broglie's concept of dual behavior of matter, I told you that it is significant only for microscopic objects in motion. In a similar way, the effect of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is significant only for the motion of microscopic objects and is negligible for that of macroscopic objects. Let's look at the reason behind this. If we apply the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle to an object of mass 1 milligram, okay, the expression for Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is delta x into delta v is equal to h by 4 pi m. You need not bother about writing the symbol greater than equal to. Instead, you can simply write equal to symbol here. Okay, here instead of 1 milligram, you substitute the value of 10 power minus 6 kilograms in the place of m. Okay, and when you solve this, you get the final answer of 10 power minus 28 meter square per second. So the value of the product of the two uncertainties, what are they? The uncertainty or the error which may arise in calculating the exact position of the object, and the uncertainty in velocity, which is the error which may arise in calculating the exact velocity of the object, is just 10 power minus 28 meter square per second. This is so small. So it is not possible to notice the uncertainties associated with milligram-sized or heavier objects. So that is why it is easy to trace out the path of macroscopic objects in motion by determining its position and velocity at various moments, like a ball, a planet, a car, and so on, with high accuracy. Now let's see what happens when we apply the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle to a microscopic object in motion like an electron. As you know, electron has a mass of 9.1 into 10 power minus 31 kilogram. When we substitute this in the expression delta x into delta v equal to h by 4 pi m, and when we solve the numerical, you get a value of 10 power minus 4 meter square per second as the product of delta x and delta v. Now, the value of the product of the two uncertainties in the case of an electron, that is, the error which may arise while calculating the position, exact position of the electron, and the error which may probably arise when you try to calculate the exact velocity of the electron, is too large. That is of the order of 0.0001 meter square per second. Now this value is so large in comparison to 10 power minus 28 meter square per second that we found for an object of mass 1 milligram. See, if you try to write it in numerals, what is its value? 0.27 zeros followed by 1. This value is so negligible. That is why it is only possible to notice the uncertainties associated with microscopic objects like electrons, and it is not possible to detect the uncertainties associated in the calculation of position and velocity of macroscopic objects like a ball, planet, you or me, and so on. Suppose if we assign a value of only 10 power minus 8 meter as the uncertainty or the error in calculating the position of an electron in the equation delta x into delta v equal to 10 power minus 4 meter square per second, the uncertainty in the velocity, that is delta v, would be equal to 10 power plus 4 meter. Now you can see that the error in calculating the exact velocity is so large. That is, the uncertainty in calculating the velocity or the exact velocity of the electron is so large. Hence, it is not possible to locate the path of the electron in motion around the nucleus. This contradicts with Bohr's idea of electrons moving in definite circular paths called orbits. An orbit is a clearly defined path, and this path can be defined completely only if both position and velocity of the electron are known exactly at the same time. But Heisenberg's uncertainty principle says that it is impossible. It is impossible to know the position and velocity of an electron exactly at the same time when it is revolving around the nucleus as visualized by Bohr. So, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle trashes the idea of electrons moving in definite paths called orbits as proposed by Bohr. We just learned from Heisenberg's uncertainty principle that it is not at all possible to determine the exact position and exact velocity of an electron at the same instant. Okay, instead it is possible only to detect or predict the probability of locating an electron of a particular energy. So for this reason, from now on, when we talk about the position of an electron, we cannot say statements like certainly this is its position or certainly this is the path followed by the electron. Instead, we should say the electron may be probably present here, or this is probably the path followed by the electron. Okay, the precise statements of the position and momentum of electrons is now replaced by the statements of probability. See, I have written the word probability in capital letters, because this word, that is probability of finding an electron, formed the backbone of quantum mechanical model about which we will be studying in our next class. Let us discuss problem 2.15. A microscope using suitable photons is employed to locate an electron in an atom within a distance of 0.1 angstrom. What is the uncertainty involved in the measurement of its velocity? Now, what are you asked to calculate? You are asked to calculate delta V, which is the error involved in calculating the velocity of the electron. So, you are asked to calculate delta V. Okay. Now, what is the data given? You are given the distance within which you can probably find an electron. Okay. So, it is the distance within which you can probably find an electron or locate an electron. So what is it? It is delta x. It is not the actual distance at which an electron is present. It is the distance within which you can probably find an electron. So delta x is 0.1 angstrom, which is nothing but 0.1 into angstrom stands for 10 power minus 10. So 0.1 into 10 power minus 10 meter is delta x. Now let us substitute it in the expression for uncertainty. Delta x into delta p equal to h by 4 pi. Okay. You are asked to calculate delta v. So you cannot use delta x into delta p. Instead, you should use the expression where you have the term velocity. Now what is that expression? Delta x into m into delta v equal to h by 4 pi. Now you can take delta x into m to the denominator on the right hand side. So when you do that, the expression becomes delta v equal to h by 4 pi into delta x into m. You know, h is Planck's constant, which is 6.626 into 10 power minus 34 joule second. Mass of the electron is known. So it is 9.1 into 10 power minus 31 kilogram. Pi is 3.14. You can just take two decimals. Okay. So 3.14, and the value of delta x is 0.1 into 10 power minus 10 meter. The value of m. Okay, if you substitute all these and if you solve the expression, what is the value you will be getting? you find that the value of delta V becomes equal to 5.79 into 10 power 6 meter per second. The value is so large, that is, the uncertainty or error in calculating the velocity of electron is so large, that is, the uncertainty becomes highly significant for a microscopic particle like electron, which is in motion. So Heisenberg's uncertainty principle becomes significant for an electron which is probably found within a distance of 0.1 angstrom. Let us look at problem 2.16. A golf ball has a mass of 40 grams and a speed of 45 meter per second. If the speed can be measured within an accuracy of 2%, calculate the uncertainty in the position. So, what are the data given? You are given the mass of the ball, which is 40 grams. So you are dealing with a macroscopic object in this problem. The speed of the ball is given as 45 meter per second. And look at the next sentence. The speed can be measured with an accuracy of 2%. So the uncertainty in measuring the speed is 2%. That is 2 by 100 of 45 meter per second. Okay, when you do this calculation, you get a value of 0.9 meter per second, which is nothing but delta V. Okay, now you have the values of mass, you have the value of delta V. Now in which expression would you substitute these values? You would substitute this in the expression delta x into m into delta V equal to h by 4 pi. After solving the numerical, you get the value of delta x as 1.46 into 10 power minus 23 meter. This value is so small. This is negligible, right? Our everyday life doesn't really give us any experience with Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. See, we did this problem for calculating the uncertainty, okay, or the error which might arise in calculating the exact location of the golf ball. It is a macroscopic object, and see what the answer you got. The value of the answer is so small. It is so negligible, right? Logic tells us we can figure out pretty correctly, accurately, and we can find certainly the position and momentum of a golf ball or macroscopic objects in general. The uncertainties for macroscopic objects are so small, so that in reality you actually don't notice any error when you tend to calculate the position or momentum or velocity of any macroscopic object. You only notice them when you think about the microscopic particles. Now let us look at the reasons for the failure of the Bohr's model of hydrogen atom. Okay. See, you have already learnt in our previous classes about the limitations, 3 other limitations of Bohr's model. Okay, you can include what we are going to learn now under the limitations of Bohr's model. Okay, so let's see the reasons for the failure of Bohr's model. One of the reasons for the failure of Bohr's model is its inability to explain de Broglie's concept of dual behavior of matter. In Bohr's model, an electron is regarded as a charged particle moving in well-defined circular orbits around the nucleus. Bohr considered electrons only as particles. Clear? He considered electrons only as particles. He did not consider the wave character of the electrons. But according to de Broglie, an electron behaves not only as a particle but also as a wave. Right? Remember, what was de Broglie's concept of dual behavior of matter? Matter exhibited both particle and wave-like properties. Here, electron being a particle, it will exhibit not only wave-like property, it will also exhibit its particle-like property. Thus, Bohr's model of hydrogen atom ignores the dual behavior of matter. What is the next reason for the failure of Bohr's model? Inability to explain Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. According to Bohr, electrons moved around the nucleus in well-defined circular orbits. Okay, an orbit, as we learned from the previous slides, it is a clearly defined path, and this path can be defined completely only if both position and velocity of the electron are known exactly at the same time. Okay, if the position and velocity of the electron are known simultaneously. This is not possible according to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. It states that it is impossible to determine simultaneously the exact position and exact momentum or velocity of an electron. So these are the reasons for the failure of Bohr's model of hydrogen atom. You can also include these under the limitations of Bohr's model. Children, I want you to do NCERT exercise problem 2.61 as your homework. If the position of the electron is measured with an accuracy of plus or minus 0.002 nanometer, uncertainty in the momentum of the electron. Okay, so in the first sentence you are given delta x, its value is equal to 0.002 nanometer. Now you are asked to calculate the uncertainty in the momentum of the electron. So what are you asked to calculate? You are given the value of delta x and you are asked to calculate the value of delta p. Okay, how would you do that? You would substitute delta x in the equation. Delta p is equal to h by 4 pi into delta x. Okay, so instead of delta x you will substitute 0.002 nanometer. You should convert nanometers to meters. Okay, then you would substitute the value of h and the value of pi. Just substitute 3.14. Okay, no need to substitute 3.1416 and all. Okay, so after solving this numerical, you will get a value for delta p. Now coming to the next sentence, suppose the momentum of the electron is h by 4 pi m into 0.05 nanometer. Is there any problem in defining this value? Now you are given the equation which defines the actual momentum of this electron. Okay, in the first sentence, from the first sentence you will be calculating the error which can arise if you try to calculate the momentum of the electron, which is delta p. Now in the second sentence you are given the actual momentum which you would get when you solve the numerical h by 4 pi m into 0.05 nanometer. Okay, substitute the value of h, substitute the value of pi. Okay, you should convert nanometers to meters. Okay, joule should be converted to kilogram meter square per second. Okay, so when you do this, you will get a value which would be the actual momentum of the electron. Now, compare the value you got for delta p and the value you obtained for actual momentum. Compare both these values and just try to say whether you can define the value of delta p when you compare it with the value you obtain for actual momentum. Now this is your homework. Please try to do that.